The sun had barely dipped below the horizon on a hot summer evening in June 1996. But inside the vast estate of Herbert Baumeister, a sense of unease lingered. The sprawling property in Westfield, Indiana, was supposed to be a quiet suburban home for Herbert, his wife Julie, and their two children. Yet the place felt anything but ordinary. Behind the white picket fence and manicured lawn lay a dark secret, one that no one would ever have guessed. It was Herbert's teenage son, Eric, who stumbled upon the horror that had been hidden for so long. As he wandered the wooded area behind the house, his foot caught on something hard and foreign beneath the dirt. At first, he thought it was some odd relic, maybe a Halloween decoration left forgotten by his father. But when he brushed the dirt away, his heart sank. A human skull stared back at him, its hollow eye sockets reflecting the fading light. Eric's pulse quickened and an uncomfortable feeling spread through him. This was no prop. His mind raced. Was it real? He had no idea what to do, but after staring at the skull for what seemed like an eternity, he rushed inside and told his mother, Julie. Julie had always been wary of Herbert, ever since his strange and erratic behavior had started escalating. She knew something was off about her husband, the dark moods, the moments of rage, the unexplained items in their home. But the skull, that gruesome discovery, was the final straw. Julie knew her family was in danger, and she had to act. With trembling hands, she called the police, telling them about the skull her son had found. It was a call that would soon change everything. Authorities acted swiftly. Julie's fears were confirmed when detectives arrived at the property and began digging into the ground where Eric had found the skull. They soon unearthed more than they could have ever imagined. Dozens of skeletons, all belonging to men who had vanished over the years, lay buried in shallow graves around the property. The discovery was a gruesome testament to the twisted life Herbert Baumeister had led in secret. Baumeister had been living a double life for years, fooling his family and the community. By day, he was a successful businessman, running a chain of thrift stores with a respectable image. But by night, he had become a predator, luring men from local gay bars to his home under the guise of a friendly invitation. Some were promised alcohol, others a good time, but what they didn't know was that their final destination would be Herbert's house of death. The estate, which had once seemed like a symbol of suburban tranquility, now revealed its sinister truth. Investigators discovered mannequins placed in lifelike poses in Herbert's bar and around the swimming pool, some of them dressed in the clothes taken from the victims like twisted trophies of his control. The mannequins stared blankly at the walls, a silent witness to the unspeakable horrors Herbert had enacted within these very walls. But it was more than just the mannequins that hinted at the depths of his depravity. There were clues left behind by the victims, clothing, personal items, and photographs that tied Baumeister to the disappearances of multiple men, mostly from the gay community. His need for control over his victims had gone far beyond death. He had tried to preserve them, to keep them alive in some twisted form of dominance. Herbert had been careful. His dark desires were hidden beneath layers of charm and normalcy, enough to keep him under the radar for years. He had crafted the perfect life with his family, Julie, their two children, and their seemingly idyllic existence. But beneath the surface, his violent tendencies were bubbling over. He had created a horrific sanctuary, a place where his fantasies played out without restraint. The mannequins were more than just objects to him. They were his way of maintaining a grip on what he had stolen: his victims' lives, their bodies, their dignity. It wasn't until his wife Julie became suspicious of him and the growing collection of disturbing items that she finally broke her silence. With the discovery of the skull, Julie knew she had to act. Her cooperation with law enforcement became a crucial piece of the puzzle, giving them the evidence they needed to tie Herbert to the murders. But the most chilling part of the story was yet to come. As the investigation gained momentum, Herbert realized his world was crumbling. The walls were closing in. In July 1996, just days after the bodies had been uncovered, Herbert Baumeister vanished. He fled the country, leaving his wife and children behind, but no one could escape their past forever. In a remote area of Ontario, Canada, Baumeister's body was found. He had taken his own life, likely to avoid facing the consequences of his actions. The man who had lived among them, seemingly ordinary, had turned out to be one of the most cold-blooded killers in American history. His victims, all forgotten in life, were now buried in the earth, their only legacy the brutal legacy he left behind. The story of Herbert Baumeister left a permanent mark on the community. The property once thought to be an oasis of suburban life was now a symbol of terror. His children would grow up haunted by the knowledge of what their father had done. Julie, who had been tormented by the man she had once loved, would live with the weight of knowing she had unknowingly lived under the same roof as a monster. But for those who survived, those who lived to tell the tale, the discovery of that human skull would never be forgotten. It was the catalyst that brought justice to the dead and forced the world to face the darkness hiding in plain sight. Herbert Baumeister's name became synonymous with horror, a reminder that the most terrifying monsters can often wear the most convincing faces. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think of the story of Herbert Baumeister? It's a chilling tale of deception and horror, but we want to hear your take on it. Do you believe there were signs that could have been caught earlier? Were there aspects of the case that you found particularly disturbing? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story and want more content on true crime and real-life mysteries, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We'll keep bringing you gripping stories, deep dives, and fascinating cases from all over. Stay tuned. More chilling tales are on the way.